evening, everyone. Again, Prateek, I hope you have joined.
Yes, hi everyone.
Thank you, Prateek. And we are really sorry that we are 3 minutes late as we were attending a wonderful session by Mansi. So now I would request everyone and to their team members also to pass on the message and join the session as soon as possible. So we are already 3 minutes late by time. So Prateek, I would request you to let's start this session as soon as the people are joining in. So I think by the time you will come to the point and we will, have a good attendance of that.
Okay, sure. Let me share the screen first. So, is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, Prateek.
Yes, Prateek.
Okay. Um, so, Gurpreet, can we start now? Hello?
Yes, Prateek, we can
Yes,
start.
visible.
Okay, thank you. So, hi everyone. First of all, welcome to this knowledge session. My name is Prateek Gupta. I'm a software consultant at Nordus. So, in this session, I'll give you a brief introduction of higher order function in Scala. So, hopefully, it's going to be a easy session for everyone and also a quick one. So, before beginning, let's quickly discuss about the knowledge etiquettes. So, first one is punctuality. So, it is always recommended for everyone to join the session at least 5 minutes before it gets started so that we can start the session on time. Next one is mute. So, please keep your window on mute until you have any question. So, if you have any question, you can unmute yourself anytime. Next one is avoid disturbance. So please avoid leaving your window unmuted after asking any question, so that we can continue the session without any disturbance. And the final one is feedback. So make sure you submit the feedback after every session, because it is really helpful for the presenter to present you more better next time. So now let's move on towards the agenda for today. So am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Hi, Prateek.
Okay. So our agenda for this session will be first we'll go through what is functional programming, as it is a base to understand what are higher order functions. Next we'll move on to the higher order functions. What are they? Then we'll see how we can define them in Scala, and after that we'll learn about some of the commonly used higher order functions in Scala, and finally a demo where we'll try to see some example. uh, we'll see some example of higher order functions, how we can define them in Scala, and we'll also use some of the predefined higher order functions in that demo part. So let's begin. So, apart from being a purely object-oriented programming language, Scala is also functional. So, we need to understand what is functional programming. So, anybody who would like to answer this question? Anyone?
It is a way to write uh, programs that treat as a mathematical functions.
Okay, right. Anyone else? Okay, so let's understand a bit more about it. So, functional programming is basically a style of programming that emphasizes writing application using only pure functions and immutable value. So, pure functions in the sense that of those functions that does not have any side effects. So, what are side effects? So, a function is said to have side effects if it does something other than simply returning a result. So, for example, modifying a field or printing to the console, reading input from the console, reading from a file or writing from a file, and such kind of things. Okay, so and the other one is it should use immutable values. So functional programming work well with immutable values. Immutable values means something which is not changeable. So our next point is it is driven mainly by two ideas. So functional programming is based on two ideas. First one is functions are the first class citizens. So what does that mean? So functions are the first class citizens. It means that we can pass any function as an argument to some other function. We can return any function as a result to some of any other function, and we can assign any function to any variable. So this is what first class citizens mean. Like in any object oriented programming language, objects are the first class citizens. So we can pass it in any function, we can return it, and things like that. Okay, so in Scala or in any other programming language, functions are treated like any other type, string, integer, or any other class type. So the next main idea is functions should map input values to output values rather than changing data in place. So this helps us to use the immutable data structures. So as we have discussed uh, above. So now let's see what are high order functions. So okay, so a function is called a higher order function if it meets one or both of the following conditions. First one is it takes other functions as parameter, or second one is it returns a function as a result. So we can say a function is a high order function if it can accept any other function as a argument, or it can return any function as a result, or both. uh, it means at least one condition should met. Okay, so next one is higher order functions are possible because of the fact that functions are first class citizens in Scala. So as we have discussed in the previous slide, functions are the first class citizens in any functional programming, and this is because higher order functions are possible. Okay, so next is higher order function let you raise the level of abstraction. So it means that you don't have to specify how things should be done. You just need to specify what you want to do. You don't need to specify how it will be done. So in this manner, it helps you to raise the level of abstraction. Okay. So now the question is, how do we define them in Scala? So let's see. So let's take an example of a high order function that take any other function as a parameter. So here we have the salary raiser object, and it contains four functions. The first one is the high order function. How, I'll explain it. And the next three are the normal functions, which is calling the higher order function. So the first function, that is the promotion function, it's actually a higher order functions. It has two parameters. The first one is the salaries of type list of doubles, and the second one is actually a function from double to double. So the first double is actually the type of parameter that this function expects, and the next double, that is after the arrow, is actually the return type of this function. So here we have just we have a function that take only one parameter. That's why we have not enclosed it within the parenthesis. So if we have a function that takes more than one parameters, then we can enclose it within the parenthesis. So what we are doing here, simply the small promotion, great promotion, and huge promotion. So the salary will be increased based on our promotion. So if our promotion is small, then our salary will increase by some amount. So what we are doing here, simply the small function is calling the higher order function, which is the promotion function, passing the salaries, and then here we are passing the body of that function that promotion is expecting. So what we are doing, salary and then the body, salary multiplied by 1.1. So the first salary is actually the name of the parameter, and the salary into 1.1 is actually the implementation of the promotion function. This one. Okay, and similarly, the great promotion and the huge promotion are also calling the promotion function, but they are increasing the salary a bit more compared to each other. Okay, so I hope you get some idea of how we define a function that take another function as a parameter, but we'll understand it better through the demo part. So okay, so let's see an example of a function that that returns any function as a result. So here we have the URL builder function that takes two parameters of type boolean and string, and here it is actually returning a function. So this is how we return a function from another function. So it will basically return a function that will take two parameters of type string, and the return type of that function would be will be string. Okay, so what we are doing here, simply we are doing a if else here, and the schema will store this string, and finally at the at this last line we are returning a function, an anonymous function. An anonymous function is any function that does not have any name. So this is an anonymous function that will take two parameters, and the return type of this function is string. So here we are actually returning a string. So this way we satisfy this function. Okay, so how we are calling it? We are simply calling this URL builder function, and we are assigning it into the get URL. So get URL will be of type string, comma string, and the return type of this function, that function will be string. So now you can see in the last line that when we are calling the get URL, we are passing the endpoint and query. Both are of types string. So this way we get any function as a result, and finally we are passing some values to it and getting the result. So again, I'll explain more about it in the implementation part. So till now, do we have any questions? Okay, no problem. Let's move on to the further slide. So now we'll learn about some of the commonly used higher order functions in Scala. So Scala has a lot of predefined higher order functions, and we'll see some of the important ones. So first one is map. So map is simply a higher order function that transform a collection into some other collection by applying a function to each of its element. Okay, so one point to note here is that the type of the collection remains same, but the element type may change. So here we can see how a map function looks like. So it basically expects a function from A to B. So A to B in the sense means a function with only one parameter, and it returns us a traversable, which is the top level uh, class in the hierarchy of collection, in the collection hierarchy. Okay, so this is how the map signature looks like. So this map function will call this function that we have passed here, the f, on each of the element of the collection, and will transform it based on the implementation that we will provide here. And this is how it works. So the next important higher order function is flat map. So flat map is identical to the map function. So it also transform a collection into another collection by applying a function to each of its element. But what's the difference? So the only difference between map and flat map is that in flat map, the inner grouping of the elements are removed and the sequence is generated. So let's say if you have a list of integers, then when we call the flat map function on that, then it will convert the list of integers into a single list of integers. So what it has done, it simply removes the inner grouping of the elements and generate a sequence. So flat map acts as a shorthand to map a collection and then immediately flatten it. So in simple word, we can say that calling flat map is like calling the map function followed by the flatten function. So we'll also see how it works in the demo part. So this is how the signature of flat map looks like. So it expects a function from A to traversable of B. So as we have mentioned, it will return us a collection, and the inner grouping of that collection will be removed, and finally uh, we'll get a single collection of some type. Okay, so this was all about flat map. So let's move on to the other higher order function, filter. So filter basically removes the unwanted data from the collection. Or we can say filter select those elements which satisfy a predicate. So what's a predicate? So a predicate is nothing but a unary function that returns a Boolean value. So here in the signature of this filter function, you can see this filter is expecting a function from A to Boolean. It's actually the predicate or the unary function having only one parameter. So it will call this predicate on each of the element of the collection, and if this predicate or the condition satisfy for that element, then it will append it in the resultant list or the any type of collection that we'll have. So we also have filter not, which is just the opposite of filter. So filter not selects elements which does not satisfy a predicate. So this was all about the filter function. So let's move on to the next one. This is reduce. So reduce is a bit different function compared to the previous one, the map, the flat map, and the filter function. How it is different? Let's understand that. So reduce function simply takes all the elements from a collection and combine them using a binary operation to produce a single value. So if we are calling the reduce function on a list of let's say double, then it will combine all the doubles and will return us a single element of the same type, that is double. So here you can see that, in other words, it combines multiple elements of type T into a single one of type T. So here we can see this reduce function is actually expecting a binary operation or a function with two parameters and return a result. and it will call this function on each of the element of the collection, and finally it will return us a single element of that particular type, whatever the type is. So this is how reduce is different from the other ones. So let's move on to the final higher order function, which is the fold. So fold is quite similar to reduce. So it also takes a binary function which merges all the elements from the collection and returns a single value. So in this way, fold is similar to reduce, but there is a difference. The difference between the reduce and the fold function is that fold allow us to define an initial value for the accumulator. So what that accumulator is, so accumulator is nothing but a variable that keeps that is responsible for keeping the calculation that are performed on that collection. We'll also understand about it in the implementation of okay. So due to this property, fold can also manage empty collection. Okay, so how that works? So in case of reduce, we don't have the concept of initial value, but here we have the concept of initial value. So in case of any empty collection, so fold will basically return this initial value as a result of that function. But in case of reduce, we don't have any initial value, so we'll get some kind of exception or unsupported operation exception. Such kind I'm not sure about the exact exception, but we cannot use reduce on empty collection, but fold can be used on empty collection. So similarly, here's the signature of fold. So this z colon a1 is actually the first parameter, which is the init for any for the initial value, and the second one is same as the reduce function, which is actually the binary operation. And here we'll pass our two arguments, and we'll perform some computation on that, and finally it will also return us a single element. So till now, do we have any question? um, After that we'll move on to the demo part. Anyone? Hello, am I audible?
You are audible.
Okay, so
Yes.
I
So guys, if you
think
have any question or query, you can ask Pratik, else Pratik will continue his session. Pratik, I think you should proceed.
okay, okay, cool. So let's move on towards the demo part. So we have this simple high order function, this singleton object, and we'll perform all the uh, high order functions here. So let's take an example of a high order function that take any function as a parameter. So simply let's say we have a function, let's call it high order functions in short. Then we have a number, say num of type int, and basically takes a function from, let's say, integer to integer, and it will also return us the integer. So what we are doing, we are simply calling this function in the body of this function. So whatever the user will pass here, that function will be called on this num. Okay, so here we are simply defining a function from integer to integer. So this integer is actually the parameter of that function, and this is the return type. Okay, so let's see how we can call it. So we'll simply call this function. We'll pass the first. Let's call it in the print element so that we can see the output. So then we'll pass the first parameter. Let's say 5, and okay. So we'll pass the body of this integer to integer, this function. So let's say uh, so here what we are doing, we are simply saying that whatever that the number is passed here, just increase that number by 1. So hopefully we'll get 6 as the output. So you can see. Similarly, if we want to pass some other function, let's say we want to multiply it by 2, then we'll simply change the implementation here and then it will work. 10 is the output as we are expecting. So let's take one other example. Let's say this is the math function and it takes two numbers, typing it. And third is the function parameter. Let's say we are calling it arithmetic operation. And what we are doing here, we are simply defining a function that can take two parameters and return us a result of the same type. And we need to pass the type of this function as well. And then we'll call this arithmetic operation. And after that, we'll pass the values here, a comma b. These two values. So we have simply defined a function that will take two parameters of type int and the arithmetic operation of type int comma int, which is the parameters, and the return type of that function is int. Okay, so let's see how we can call it. Let's say first one is 5, second one is, let's say first one is 15, the second one is um, 8, and then now let's say we want to perform the addition operation, then we'll simply do it like this, a comma b, then we'll return the addition of those two numbers. So this is how we'll perform the uh, addition operation. So let's print it. So see here it is returning us the uh, addition of these two numbers. So how it is actually working? It is simply taking the implementation from here and calling the same function on these two parameters. So similarly, if we want to perform subtraction, then we can simply do it like this. See, now we also have some other way to pass the function as an argument. This is actually an anonymous function. That is a function without a name. So we can also do it some other way. Let's say we define a add function that will take two parameters, and it will return us a plus b. Similarly, we can also have the subtract function that will return us the subtraction of these. So instead of defining the function here, we can simply pass the function of the same signature. Let's say add without the parenthesis. So it will work the same way like the previous one. So if we call the so we execute this, we'll get the output as 23. Similarly, if we pass subtract function without the parenthesis, then it will give us the subtraction 7. Okay, so this was all about the function as parameter. Now we'll see some example of function as a result. We'll use the same math function but in a different way. So let's say tab math 2, and it's simply taking the operation name as a string, and it will return us a function. So here we are defining the parameters of the function that will be returned. Based on the operation name, it will return the function. Let's say we are calling the match here. So if it's a add function, then simply return the addition. Oh, sorry. The parameters name are let's say. So if it's a subtraction operation, then it will return us the subtraction. Similarly, we can also define for multiplication and division. Let's quickly do that. So how it's actually working? It's actually this mat2 function is taking the operation name as a string, and based on that it will match that string with these cases, and whatever the operation name will be, then it will return the implementation based on that. So let's use this function. Let's pass it. Let's call it. No, this is not. Well, let's say we want to perform addition function. We'll call the math2 function. We'll pass add in it, and let's see what it returns us. See, it's returning us a function. Let's so it's returning us a function uh, that will take two parameters and will return us a integer. Similarly, like this, it's actually returning the same function. So similarly for let's say subtraction, back to subtraction, then it will also return us the same function. But now how we'll call these add and subtraction function. So simply we'll call this add function. We'll pass the parameters in it. Let's say 5 comma 8, and similarly For the subtraction function, let's say we are calling the subtraction function with two parameters like 20, 9. Let's see what we'll get. See, it's simply returning us the addition, and this one is returning us the subtraction. And similarly, we can also uh, define the multiplication function and the division function. It's it that will also work the same way. So this was all about the function as a result. Okay, so now we'll see some of the uh, commonly used higher order function in use. So simply first let me comment out this. So let's use the map function first. So here we have simply a list of numbers, integers, and the list of string. So let's call the map function on each of them. Let's say val map num so numbers dot map, and what we'll do, we'll simply increment each of the number by one. So you can see here it's returning us a list of integers, and let's print this and see what's the output. So see, this function will be called on each of these elements, and it will increment them by one, and that's why we are getting 3, 6, 9, and 11 as the output. So one other way, or the shorthand for the calling the same function would be, instead of passing the whole function, we can simply do it like this: underscore plus 1. It will also give us the same result. So this underscore represent one function parameter, or we can say this underscore will represent each of this element. Okay, so again let's check the output. So we'll get the same output. So it's an example of calling the map function that will return us the same type. So as we have discussed in the slide that the outer type, which is list, will remain same, but the inner type, that is these elements, that may change. So in this case we are getting list of integers because we are returning the integers. But let's take an example where the inner element type will be changed. So let's say map names. Let's comment this one first. So what we are doing, simply names dot map, and what we'll do, we'll simply take each of the name and we'll return the length of that name. So this way, if we check the type of this map names, we can see it is returning us the list of integers, but it's actually the list of string. But on calling the map function, it's returning us the list of integers. Because of this, we change the type of inner element here. So this function will be called on each of these names, and it will return us the length, and this way the inner type will be changed. Let's check it. Map names. So we are getting the length of each of the string. So this is something that we were expecting. Similarly, we can also do it like this. It will give us the same result. Okay, so now let's move on to the other part. Let's quickly comment out this. Now let's see the flat map, some examples of flat map. So we have sentences, and we simply have a list of integers. Now we'll quickly see an example of flat map. Let's say sentence. Flat sentences. You can give it any other name. Just middle. So sentences dot. Let's say first we try to call map on it. So map, and simply what we are doing, the sentence and sentence dot split. Okay, so we are taking each of the string and we are splitting it uh, into its words. And what we are getting here, we are getting here list of array of string. But instead of calling map, if we call flat map here, then it will convert it into a list of integers. That is, it removes the inner grouping and generated a single list of sequence, generated a single sequence. So we can print this out. Uh, flat map sentences. See, it removes the arrays and generated a sequence. That's it. Let's see the output if we are calling map. Okay, actually, yeah, we cannot print an array just like a list. That's why. So, as I mentioned in the slide, that calling flat map is like calling the map function followed by flatten. It will give us the same result. See this. So if I hover on it, then it will say replace dot map and flatten with flatmap. See, it's the same as calling map and the flatten function. So this was an example of using the flat. We can also use it on futures. Let's say if we have a future of let's say int, then the flat map function will convert that future of int into a single future of int. Not just that, if we have a future of int, then also it will convert it into a single future of int. So this was an example of flat map. Let's quickly see the example of filter. So let's use this number list here as well. So well, filter now equals to numbers dot filter, and we'll simply pass the condition here. Let's say and should be greater than 5. Then let's print the output. See, uh, the list of numbers is containing 2, 5, 8, and 10, but 2 and 5 is not satisfying the predicate. That's why it's not added in the list. But 8 and 5 is satisfying that predicate. That's why we get 8 and 10 as the output of this filter function. Similarly, we can use filter not here, and that will work opposite to filter. Now we'll get list of 2 and 5. See, this is the output here. So as let's quickly see the examples of reduce and fold as well. So they are quite similar. So well, reduce list. We are using the same numbers list. We are calling the which is of list of int, which is of type list of integers. Reduce. Then we are simply passing the binary operation here, and what we are doing, we are simply plus. So we can see that we are passing the two parameters here. First one is the accumulator. We are simply giving name to those types. Accumulator basically accumulates or keep the state of all the calculation, and finally we'll get the output from the accumulator. So if we print the output here, so we are simply taking every element and adding it with the next one. So println reduce list. See, the addition of all these elements is 25. That's why we are getting us. So we can see that it's returning us an integer, just a int, and it's a list of int. So it's converting a list of int in just a single element of type of the same type. Okay, so here we are doing the sum. We can also perform some other operation like uh, let's say multiplication. So it will give us the multiplication of all the numbers. See, okay, so finally let's see the example of the fold function. Numbers dot fold will pass, as we have discussed, the difference between reduce and fold is we can pass an initial value to fold. So let's pass 0 as the initial value. Otherwise, if we don't pass the initial value in this reduction function, because we don't have that option, so it will take the first element as the initial value for this accumulator. So similarly, we'll pass a binary operation here, and plus number. So see, this will also give us the same output. Actually, here we are doing the addition. Let's say if we want to mm, change the initialized value, then we can simply do it. Then this this highlighted error will be gone. Initially, it was showing us that we can use sum instead of calling this whole, because there at that time we were simply adding all the elements. But let's say we change the initial value, then it that will be gone. So the in this case the initial value is 35 and the sum of all that elements will be 25. So we'll get 35 as the output because we changed the initial value. See, 35 is the output. So as I discussed, in case of reduce, we cannot use reduce with an empty list. So if let's say we remove all the elements here, so this will give us an error, but this will not give us any error. So let's quickly comment out all these so that so now in this case we have an empty list. So in this case, let's see the output. So as I told you, it will take this initial value as the output of this whole list, whole operation if we have a empty list. So this was all about the higher order functions. So if anyone has any question, then uh, they can ask. So do we have any questions?
Guys, if you have any question, you may ask. It will help the facilitator to understand that, on which thing he has to reiterate. So we all will be glad to know. So I think, Pratik, they don't have any question. If you have something to share more, you can.
So no problem. It was hopefully you will understand something uh, new in this session. Uh, I think it was a easy session for everyone, and yeah. So please submit feedback for this session so that if there is something that I missed, then I will definitely try to uh, improve that the next session. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Pratik, for this wonderful session. However, I'm amazed that there are 40 people and who are not even, considering to unmute themselves and share their thoughts on this. So this is, this is a surprise thing to know. Uh, Rahul, we all would appreciate if you can, unmute yourself and let us know that how you felt about session. Even everyone who is reacting, who all are giving reactions, we do appreciate, but it would be highly appreciable if you all can unmute yourself and let us know about the session.
Yeah, Gurpreet, I would like to say something.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Rituraj.
this is actually a very good session. We got to know about the higher order functions and also what kind of methods we can apply on the higher order function. It is totally an interactive session, and I learned so many things from this session. Thank you so much, Pratik, for the session.
Thanks a lot, Saurabh, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, Pratik. Actually, we learn lots of new things about you already described the map, filter, and film height map, reduce, and about folds. So that's the new thing I learned from that session, today's session. So thank you for giving the that session.
Thank you, Shashikant.
Yeah, Pratik, it was a very nice session. We learn about some higher order functions, and also you show us the practical implementations, and we learned a lot. Thank you for the session.
Thank you, Gulshan.
So I think that's all. Thank you, Shashikant. Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, Rituraj. So all who have given us the feedback, thank you very much. And thank you guys for taking out time and attending this beautiful session by Pratik. And Pratik, I really, really appreciate your time and efforts for this. So let's share our feedback in feedback forms and let the facilitator know, what are the things which, he or anyone else needs to, the previous session also needs to cover. So we are waiting for your constructive feedback. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Pratik, once again.
Welcome.